legend of wealth for life. Mahogany strong, yeah, we on our lane. Breaking every chain, never stay the same. It's a new day, yeah, we take control. Build it up, exit down, that's the goal. Yeah.
Awesome. Welcome everyone to the Mahogany Circle Podcast, where we have real conversations that stretch the mind, stretch the spirit, and shift the way we build legacy. Today's conversation is centered around one powerful quote: wealth is the result of high energy. My name is Dr. Tabatha Russell, and my co-host of the day is Dr. Dan Young. Welcome in, Dan. It's so good to see you, sir.
Always good to see you too. Looking forward to it.
Yes. Now, let's be clear, because I want to jump right into this conversation. High energy is not about performing for people. It's about being loud. It's not about, let me clarify that. It is not about being loud, busy, or all over the place. High energy is about being alive in your purpose. And that is one of the things that you will find all over all of my stuff is being powerful on purpose. But it's also about showing up with intention. It's about protecting your focus, stewarding your gifts, honoring your time, and refusing to pour premium vision into low-level habits. Now, I want to jump right all into this discussion on today, because I do know that the Mahogany Circle is on a mission to change lives and build wealth. So when we say that wealth is the result of high energy, what does that mean to you, Dr. Dan? Because I want you to kick this conversation off.
Sure. So, what we mean is that wealth is rarely created by people who are mentally asleep, emotionally drained, spiritually disconnected, and casually inconsistent. So wealth is really the fruit of a certain kind of internal posture. So high energy just means that you're awake to possibility. You're paying attention to your life. You're not dragging your purpose behind you like it's a burden. You're carrying it like it's a divine assignment that you've been given since birth. So high energy is a discipline to think bigger than your current condition. And it's a willingness to take responsibility for your outcomes. And it's really emotional maturity to stop blaming everyone outside of you and start asking, what can I build with my hands, with what's in my hands right now? So wealth begins there. Now, we all know that money follows value. But one of the things that a lot of people don't think about is that value follows focus, and focus follows energy. There was a time where we would say that the most valuable commodity in the world was gold, and then it was oil, and then it was dollars, and then it was time. But now the most valuable commodity in the world is attention. And so attention follows energy. So if your energy is low, your creativity gets low. If your confidence gets low, and your decision-making gets shaky. So when that happens, follow-through becomes inconsistent. But when your energy is elevated, you think clearly, move quickly, recover faster, and become far more intentional with that time, your gifts, and your opportunities. So wealth is not random. It's often the result of someone who's decided to operate at a higher frequency than average. So those are some of the things that I personally think about. And, for Dr. Tabatha, I would love to ask you, how does mindset influence a person's ability to generate wealth?
Awesome. Well, mindset is in my ecosystem, and I know that mindset is everything before wealth shows up in your bank account, right? It usually has to show up in your belief system. And if a person believes wealth is for other people, they will unconsciously, right, not even really thinking about it, reject the very opportunities that could change their life. So if they believe struggle is noble, and ease is suspicious, they will sabotage expansion, because deep down, they do not trust overflow. Like they don't believe that that's their portion, their birthright. So your mindset determines what you notice, what you tolerate, what you pursue, and what you think is possible. So a wealthy mindset does not say, I want more money, first of all. It says, I am willing to become the version of myself that can manage, multiply, and maintain more. And that is different, right? A lot of
Hmm.
people don't feel like, or a lot of people are trying to make six figures with a survival mentality. So they're trying to build legacy while still emotionally attached to scarcity, right?
Hmm.
They're trying to scale with habits that were barely strong enough to sustain stagnation. And that does not work. Your money will rarely outperform your mindset for long, right? Like
Hmm.
you may get out there and you're running and things are going, and all of a sudden you hit a plateau or you hit a wall, is because that's as high as you can go in your own right because of your mindset. So if you want lasting wealth, you must upgrade the internal conversation, right? You must stop rehearsing lack and start practicing ownership, expectation, discipline, and stewardship, right? Like you
Hmm.
all in on becoming the person that can handle that level. Now, I am loving this conversation today because I want to know from you, Dr. Dan, what is the difference between being busy and having high energy?
So as Dr. Tabitha knows, I have 6 children. And so I can very easily say that I'm usually very busy, but in dealing with these children, I do not have high energy, right? So, um, and also one of the things we know is that busyness is movement without mastery, right? So you can have 6 kids, but I'm not quite sure I can quite make the perfect grilled cheese yet, right? So I'm just busy, right? And so busy is activity without alignment, and busy looks impressive from the outside. You tell someone you have 6 kids, they're like, "Wow, impressive." Really, what they're thinking is, "Glad it's not me," but at least they say it's impressive.
Uh-huh.
But it often, whenever we're talking about whether that's children or we're talking about being busy at work, especially more busy at work, so I'm trying not to get in trouble because these kids will be watching this podcast in like 2040 and be like, "Oh, this is why I'm messed up because my father." Um, Often, busyness is just unhealed urgency wearing a business suit.
Mm,
High
mm,
energy is not doing the most. High energy is doing what matters the most with clarity, intention, and force. That's why a lot of people, they can get 8 hours of work done in 2 hours
mhm.
because of that focus on whatever is the highest value activity they can do.
Yeah.
So, as we all know, and all of us have probably been there, if you're listening to this podcast, you're a high achieving individual, and your achievement does not generally happen immediately. It's based on millions of tiny failures till you figure out how you operate. A person can be busy all day long and still not create wealth because
Mhm.
busyness does not automatically produce value. High energy produces value because it's directed, it's strategic, it shows up where it knows where to go, it has boundaries, and understands that every yes costs something. Every delay has a price, and every distraction is ultimately an enemy to momentum. So we have to stop praising exhaustion. That was really based on the Industrial Revolution coming out of World War II, where we just worked hard so the baby boomer kids can get all the things because people just were happy, right? And we started to praise being exhausted as some level of a badge of courage to be an American. It's not. Wealth is not built by doing everything. It's built by doing the right things consistently, with excellence, with courage, and with enough self-awareness to know when your energy is leaking into things that will never pay you back. So high energy is not chaos. What it is it's actually power that's under control. So,
This is good.
yep. So in thinking about that, I'd ask you. So, in your experience, what are some signs? Because you work with a lot of people as a very, very high level executive coach. What are some of the signs that a person's energy is too low to sustain wealth creation?
Who can I just say that over the years, I have seen people at various different stages, right? And one
Hmm.
of the things that I really focus on is that business or high performance, high energy has its ebbs and flows. So, one sign though is chronic indecision, right? Or
Hmm.
being indecisive. So, when people are low in energy, everything feels heavy, right?
Hmm.
You should not be a high performing executive making high dollar or high financial decisions all throughout the day, right? You got to understand what your rhythm is. You got to understand how you function and when you're at your highest peak to make those decisions. We should also not be trying to make more than 2 to 3 high financial decisions per day, right?
Mm-hmm.
So every move for some people feels complicated. Every opportunity feels like a threat of a possibility. Another sign is constant distraction. If you cannot stay focused long enough to finish what matters, it becomes very difficult to produce real results. So, another major sign is emotional inconsistency. One day you're inspired, the next day you're defeated. Then the day after that, you're doubting yourself again. So, wealth requires enough inner stability to keep moving even when your feelings fluctuate. If your emotions run your business will run into the ground. That's flat out. There's no way around that. So another sign is tolerating environments, relationships, and habits that drain you, right? Some people are trying to build wealth while consistently entertaining low standards,
Mm-hmm.
low thinking,
Mm-hmm.
and low expectation people, right? Like sometimes the tolerance level for them is all over the place, and it's vast, right? You can't have a vast tolerance system trying to be in a space of wealth. That is expensive, first of all, and it causes you to be drained at the end of the day. So if your energy is always being pulled down, your output will eventually reflect that. So wealth creation requires protecting your peace, your attention, and your atmosphere like it matters, because they do at the end of the day. And man, can I just say that can you see I'm hyped right now?
Yep, absolutely.
This is good. So how does taking action turn high energy into wealth for you, Dr. Dan? Because I know that you have your hands in a lot of things and you've accomplished many things over the years. So what does that look like to you?
Well, I think that at the end of the day, once again, if you're listening to this podcast, you are already have a set of standards that's different than most other people, and so now it's really about taking not just action but the right action. So action becomes that bridge, right? Because we can have a vision all day. I think all of us, if you are over the age of 40, over the age of 50, we've run into at least 100 like people that we've worked with who told us all about their vision, right? You can have all these affirmations, these ideas, journals, planners, goals, bucket lists, all kinds of stuff, but until something moves, nothing actually changes. Wealth is not built by inspiration alone. It's built by inspiration that's converted to execution, which is always the real operative word there. So high energy, part of what it is like motion creates emotion. You need to have higher energy to produce that movement, and it'll show up in the form of offers being created, conversations being started, products being launched, budgets being reviewed, partnerships being explored, and systems being improved. Dr. Tabatha and I are on this call because we both saw something in each other and said, we need to act on this. We need to act quickly. And so that is part of what leads to actual wealth creation. And many of us, we do things like podcasts and do things like journals and do things, all these other things, because we want to be in constant action, focused on an end result with intention.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's less about entertaining an audience. This is more for us. we're making sure, we're making sure that we are giving each other permission to be successful, and we're making sure we give each other accountability to be successful. Right. And so those podcasts that have lasted for 10, 20, 30 years, they're doing that for them, not for you.
Right.
You just happen to have a front row seat to their method for keeping the action going. So let me say this clearly. Action does not need to be dramatic to be powerful. When we say action, we're not talking about like an action movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger or Sylvester Stallone or Wesley Snipes. You don't have to be a vampire cutting people's heads off. Like, you don't need that type of action. It just begins with one step. So, for example, with wealth creation, it can just begin with an honest look at your finances.
Right.
Sometimes it begins with just one brave pitch that you're a little bit afraid of. Sometimes it starts with filling out one application for a grant that can start your business, one investment, one, maybe most importantly, one boundary, right?
Mhm.
one time where you said no when you usually would have said yes.
Right.
Most of the successful people I know, there was some time in their life where they would set themselves on fire just to keep other people warm.
That's right.
And then what happened when you tried to put the fire out? They resented you, even though it was you who was giving the whole time. So you have to have the boundaries. You have to have maybe the conversations and just one consistent habit that's repeated over time. So the point is not to wait until you feel perfect. The point is to move with what you have and let momentum teach you what you could never learn from hesitation. And that's ultimately how you can turn how you can turn high energy into actual wealth. So now that since my sister Dr. Tabitha like lobbed one over the net to me, I'll give one back to you. So from your experience, how can high energy help people build wealth even if they're starting from a difficult place? I know you advise many people who've been through traumatic experiences, both personally, professionally, business wise. How do you help them do that even though they're starting from a tough spot?
Wow, that's an excellent question because for me, I quite often use myself as an example. Right, I made one decision, ultimately lost $500,000, house, cars, all the things, and had to start all over again. So I absolutely, in fact, know that high energy is often the difference between staying stuck in a difficult season and using the season as fuel, right?
Hmm.
So me, I had to make sure that I was not going to let that stop me, right? So
Hmm.
starting from a hard place does not disqualify you first and foremost.
Hmm.
It simply means that your strategy needs to be sharper, your mindset may need to be stronger, and your commitment may need to be deeper, right? Like I tell people that their why has to be so big and vast, it has to be so deep that you are anchored to this thing. If $1 didn't show up in the first 60, 90, 180 days, right? Because some people get into it and be like, oh, this gotta work because in 30 days, in 2 weeks, I got this bill I gotta pay. Well, sometimes it doesn't work that way. So high energy helps because it shifts you from helplessness to ownership. It moves you from why is this happening to me to what can I build from here. That shift is powerful. It changes your posture, it changes your language, and it changes your choices as well. Because I quite often like to say, if your back is against the wall, you only have one way to go, and that's straightforward. That is through, right? So now let's be honest. A hard starting point is real. Limited money is real. Limited access can be real. Exhaustion can be real. But even then, high energy says, I will not surrender my imagination to my situation, right? I will not normalize defeat. I will not become loyal to a life that is beneath what I know is possible. That kind of internal decision matters because it says that I see the situation, but I'm not going to be consumed by that situation. I'm not going to let it have me. So it is often the seed of generational change. Wealth does not always start with abundance.
Hmm.
Sometimes it starts with a bold refusal to basically not stay where you are, right? So wealth doesn't always start with that starting line that says, hey, you got a silver spoon, right? You got access to a silver platter. It starts with that bold refusal to not stay where you are. And
Hmm.
so I'm loving this discussion because I know that there's so much more available to many of us that we haven't even begun to tap into, but we got to stretch ourselves in some ways, right? So, Dr. Dan, tell me this: what role does community play in sustaining high energy and building wealth? Because we've just recently created the Mahogany Circle, and our founding members are they're jumping in, they're on board, and they're
Hmm.
excited about what's going on. So, how important is community to you?
Well, I mean, community is critical. because energy is contagious, and energy moves through a community. I was talking to my kids the other day, and obviously the video games and toys they have are very different than the ones I have. And I mentioned a toy that I had growing up. I'm not sure you'll know what it is, but you probably may have never thought of the name of it. It's called Newton's Cradle, and basically what Newton's Cradle is, it's like it has these 5 metal balls hanging there side by side on strings, so that they barely touch. And then when you lift one ball and you swing it, it hits the other ones, and the other one goes off. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yep. And so if you took 2 of them and you swung them, it hits the middle, and then 2 balls on the other side go. And it's basically how they used to teach physics. A lot of that is like community. Oftentimes, we go and we make a pitch, hits one person, and then sometimes we get really upset that that person doesn't buy. But on the back end of that, the 5th person who's now heard about our pitch from the 2nd, the 3rd, the 4th, the 5th one buys. Now, this is amplified when you have 2 people giving the pitch, and then 2 people on the other side buy.
Yeah. Wow.
Now imagine if this was bigger: 3 people, then 4 people, then 5 people. That's the community. And so that's I knew you didn't think you were going to get some physics today. You thought you were done with that in 11th grade, but here we are again, because science does not lie. No matter what the administration says, science does not lie.
That's right.
And so that energy that's generated is contagious. But here's the thing: so is hopelessness.
Right.
So is ambition, so is fear, so is excellence. So who you sit around matters, because people either reinforce your limitations or they expand your imagination. So it's really important to see who you're sitting next to in Newton's Cradle.
That's
and
right.
are they going in the same direction you are? Because if they're going the opposite direction, what happens to you? You bounce back the other way.
That's it.
And so this is one of the reasons that Mahogany Circle matters, because public descriptions of the organizations point to connection, support, social gatherings, podcasts, collaboration. That's the type of ecosystem that's powerful, because wealth is not individual. As both Dr. Tabatha and I, don't turn off the podcast. We're both Philadelphia Eagles fans. And I know the Eagles owner keeps getting richer and richer. He's not getting richer by himself. It's because of the community who's buying those season tickets, like me. They just sent me the invoice last week. and to quote my friends who I grew up with in Long Island, who I knew from Long Island from college, I'm verklempt about the price of these season tickets.
Right.
However, Jeffrey Lurie could not make that money without this community that's there, who consistently reinforces the need to get these tickets. Right. So wealth is not individual. It's relational. It's about all of us sitting in the stands, sometimes in the freezing cold, sometimes in the scorching heat, together. And people grow faster when they're seen, supported, stretched, connected to real tools and real conversations, right? And so we see that with sports, and we see that with business. So when you're in the right community, your standards rise. Your blind spots are challenged, your ideas sharpen, your courage grows, and you really begin to realize that wealth is not some distant fantasy for a chosen few. It becomes something practical, teachable, and reachable. And so strong community does not replace personal responsibility, but it should absolutely strengthen your personal capacity. And sometimes the right room can wake up the version of you that's been sleeping for a long time. And that's that's part of what we want to do through the Mahogany Circle. So in talking about community, obviously, Dr. Tabatha, you've built large communities. You are revered in your space. And so people always want to know, how can I get more like that? So what are some of the daily habits that helps a person maintain the type of energy that creates wealth?
First of all, we're going to go back to protecting your mind, right? What you listen to, what you watch, what you repeat, and also what you believe all shape your inner atmosphere, right? Subconsciously, you'll be amazed at how you are walking around with doubt, how you're walking around with unbelief, how you're walking around with anger, and all these things that's on the inside. But you cannot feed yourself confusion all day long and expect clarity to show up on demand. It's just not going to happen. Second, create a rhythm, right?
Hmm.
Wealth, love, structure. So
Hmm.
you need routines that support thinking, your planning, your creating, your selling, your resting, and reviewing. Like all of that needs to have a rhythm, like a flow that is in your life. And third, tell the truth about your patterns. Like high energy is not fake positivity, it is self awareness with responsibility. So if you know that you procrastinate, address that. Right? Start somewhere, draw a line in the sand and say, okay, I know that that's my challenge, but you know what? Today I'm going to start over. I am going to now align myself. And so if you know that you avoid numbers, face them. If you know certain people or environments drain you, stop acting surprised and start making changes. Number four, do one wealth building action every day. It might be small, it should be intentional. Learn something. That's going to be the first thing that I do when I get up in the morning. I'm going to listen to something, I'm going to read something because I want to set the tone of my day, right? But more importantly, on this wealth building legacy journey, save something, right? Pitch something, write something, organize something, improve something. There's something every day that you can do that's going to get you 1% better on your journey, right? So daily actions build identity. Identity builds consistency, and consistency builds results. And finally, honor your body and your spirit, right? Rest matters, reflection matters, prayer matters, right? Like that is
Hmm.
first and foremost. I heard somebody say the other day that God was the CEO of their life and their business, right? So they consult him first before anything else. And I also know that boundaries matter, right? You cannot pour from an empty place forever, right? That
Hmm.
pitcher runs dry. You can't even get a drop out of it. And so you can't do that forever and expect premium outcomes. So high energy is not self-destruction. It is sustainable fire, meaning that your engine is always going. So, Dr. Dan,
Hmm.
look, you gotta tell me this now. What would you say to someone who wants wealth but keeps delaying the action, right? Like they're just not taking action.
Hmm. So, Tabitha, you know, my one of my previous careers was as a financial advisor, and every
Mhm.
financial advisor, we tend to show people the same thing when they come in the office. And there's this little
Right.
chart that says if you start saving when you're 25 and you save $100 a month at
Yes.
8%, and compare that to what it looks like if you start saving at 35 at 8%, the difference is astronomical.
Mhm.
Because as you know, wisdom is compounded, similar to the way money is compounded. The more you delay the action, the more expensive it becomes.
Mhm.
And so, absolutely, every time you postpone the thing that you know you need to do, not only are you losing time, but probably more importantly, you're reinforcing the pattern. As we know, after the age of 30, it's way easier to learn than it is to unlearn.
Mhm.
And so, those behaviors that you have, you need to make sure you're trying to cut them out as soon as possible. You're teaching yourself that your fear gets the final vote when you continue to reinforce that pattern. And so it's dangerous because what begins as hesitation slowly becomes your actual identity, right? A
Mhm.
wise man once said, "When you're born, you look like your parents. When you die, you look like your decisions."
Wow. That's
And
good.
and so do not let hesitation become that identity for you. So the truth is most people do not need more information. There were plenty of millionaires and billionaires that literally just failed a lot and then did what they needed to do. So you don't need more information. Simply you need more courage, you need more accountability, and you need a stronger reason. You need to stop negotiating with the version of yourself that's committed to comfort more than it's committed to change. So if you want wealth, you have to act like your future matters now, not someday. Someday is where a lot of dreams go to die. And start before you feel ready, start while your voice shakes, start while your knees are knocking, start while your plan's imperfect, start while you're still learning. The people who create wealth are not always the smartest people in the room. Often they're the people who finally got tired of waiting on permission and just moved.
Oh, I like it.
So we've talked about a lot of things. So Dr. Tabatha, how about giving one final message to the listeners? What should they remember from this conversation?
Wow. So I would want the listeners to remember that wealth is just not about what you earn, right? Because I believe that most people over the course of their lives have earned $1 million and more, right? But it's about who you become in the process, right? Wealth is built by people who decide that their life deserves intentionality. It is built by people who are willing to confront their patterns, elevate their standards, protect their peace, sharpen their thinking, and take action with consistency. First of all, I believe that this conversation that we're having today about high energy, it's not hype, right? It is what I like to consider holy focus, right? It is disciplined expectation. So it is the refusal to live beneath your assignment. It is choosing not to let disappointment, delay, fear, or fatigue have more majority over your future than your vision does, right? Like you got to see your vision in plain view and have that available to you at all times. So if you've been waiting for a sign, this is it, right? Raise your energy, raise your standard, raise your expectations, clean up your thinking before you move on to the next idea, right? If you hadn't mastered the one idea that you have, if you haven't created it, you hadn't written a book, you haven't put the processes down, you don't have a system, stay right there, right? Before you move on to something else. And more importantly, protect your environment, right? Get also into rooms that is going to challenge you to be the best version of you possible. Right? Build what matters, because wealth is not only something you hope for, it is something that you position yourself for. In the moment your energy rises, your capacity to create can rise along with it. So, Dr. Dan, this has been such an amazing conversation on today. I want our listeners to really think about where they are and where it is that they want to go. And so thank you so much for having this conversation with me on today. And today's reminder is simple but powerful. Wealth is the result of high energy, not random energy, not performative energy. And high energy is rooted in vision, discipline, mindset, and courageous action. So I want to tell everybody, let this be the season where you stop asking for more while protecting the habits that keep you small, right? That's going to keep you locked in that place forever. So let this be the season where your energy matches the future you say that you want. So Dr. Dan, thank you so much for this conversation on today. I know that we're going to bring some more to our guests, our listeners, that we're going to have on the show throughout this course of time. And I just want to, allow you to, close us out and tell them how we can stay connected.
Well, definitely. What we are building here, as we talked about before, is based on high energy and based on community. You can find us at kairosclass.com. And from there and from our social media, be able to join the Mahogany Circle, which is a group of people who want to be supportive, who have high energy, who have high standards, who have high expectations, refuse to let boundaries get in our way. And we will have much more for you as we go along. And we're certainly looking forward to working with you and helping you in anything that you want to do. Everything you want is within your grasp. And the first step, obviously, is believing that. And the second step is surrounding yourself with the people who can help get you there. And we are those people. So, Dr. Tabatha, thank you for facilitating everything today. And as always, it's always a pleasure to meet with you, to talk to you, and be inspired by you. So I appreciate you for that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And it's been real, people, but we got to go. We'll see you next time right here on the Mahogany Circle Podcast. Take care.
Welcome to the Mahogany Circle, where we rise up, make it pass it down. That's the goal. Entrepreneur spirit, we running the game. No shortcuts here, we earning the name. Investing smart, let the money grow. Multiple streams, watch the cash flow. Dr. Dan with the plan, map it out clear. Dr. Tabatha, the voice, yeah, you need that here. Game so solid, no room for fear. We talking wealth that lasts for years. Ownership keys, yeah, we unlock doors. Teach you how to build, then build you more. It's bigger than now, it's deeper than fame. It's family warmth, yeah, that's the aim. We don't chase it, we create it. Every move is elevated. From the vision to the strategy, this is legacy, reality.